Welcome to another Heat Check special. I am your host, of course, JD Dyer, and we now are officially in February, which means we have to welcome in all the NFL fans that want to continue their love affair with the US sports after Tom Brady's heroics in the Super Bowl. Look, we welcome you. Come and enjoy the best NBA show here on Sky Sports. And with that being said, I have to introduce you to the Heat Check family. So, in every corner, number one, coming down from top to bottom, we go. Hoop genius, NBA 2K presenter, the Double M, Mo Moonsey, the pro basketballer for Le Mans side, that's a beast on the court, but a gentle giant off of it. Shout out to Ovi Soko. And of course, the former NBA All-Star and the king of the three-peat, you can call him here on the show, none other than BJ Armstrong. Yeah? Look, gents, this has been an interesting week. Yeah, very interesting week. But how are you doing there?
Blessed. We blessed over here, JD. The Super Bowl's done. It's time for the Super Mo. We're going to get into these hard nuts. We're going to get it cooking on another episode of the Heat Check. I'm ready.
Hey, you never surprise me, Mo. I love it. Love the intro. Feeling good over here in France, man. Still able to work out, practice, all of that good stuff. But glad to be here with my guys.
It's great to be here. You know, we just got done with the Super Bowl. Now it's all basketball all the time. So, JD, take it away, my friend.
Well, you know what? Watching Tom Brady get his seventh ring, it brought me back to an important moment, an R&B song that I used to sing all the time when I was younger. Reunited and it feels so good. And that's exactly how I feel we're going to do with the latest news this week, because Derrick Rose is returning to the New York Knicks, where he reunited with the former head coach, Tom Thibodeau. So I look at it this way. The trade was confirmed yesterday by the Detroit Pistons. The details of the trade, we'll get into the technicalities right now. Derrick Rose has been traded to the Knicks in exchange for Dennis Smith Jr. and a 2021 second-round pick. But sometimes in life, things just pan out so perfectly because we have on the show here to give us a perfect breakdown of the top to bottom of the deal and everything how Derrick's feeling. The super agent, none other than BJ Armstrong. So BJ, you can check both shoulders. But the important question is, how are you feeling on the trade and how is Derrick feeling, especially as well, you being his agent?
Well, I think Derrick is feeling great about the trade. And, it was a kind of a bittersweet moment there in Detroit and the direction that they're going now and the direction that where Derrick Rose is at in his career. So when you think of Tom Thibodeau and you think of Derrick Rose, you're saying these are two peas in a pod. They have this connection, an incredible connection that they have, an affinity for one another. They understand each other on some level. And I just think it was a good fit. When I look at this trade, I said, it's a win-win for everyone. I think Dennis Smith Jr. is going to have an opportunity to play there in Detroit. I think where Derrick is at, have an opportunity to play and continue to help this team there in New York City. And I just think it was a good move for everyone involved.
It's interesting, Mo, because we even sat on this show last week and reported Dennis Smith Jr. and talking about how he took that massive step to say that he wanted his team to send him to the G League. He wanted to get some playing time and some important minutes. It still remains unclear as to whether or not he'll remain in the bubble or join the Pistons immediately. But from Dennis Smith Jr.'s perspective, are you happy with this trade for him?
I'm more than happy with this trade for him. He gets to go to an organization where they're in a full rebuild mode, which means they're trying a lot of different options, especially with young players. And with Killian Hayes, unfortunately, out for the season with his injury to his hip, this gives Dennis Smith Jr. a chance to go and get some of those minutes if he does go and join the team and leave the G League. So, I'm happy for him. He's going to have the chance to show what he can do, and he's got a chance to prove himself. And I'm sure Detroit are going to be more than patient with him, especially because they're not trying to compete anytime soon. And, what I do want to say about this trade is the big winner for me is over on the Knicks side, Immanuel Quickley, one of the brightest young players out of the draft this year. He now gets the chance to learn from one of the best point guards we've seen do it in the NBA, Derrick Rose, especially when we talk about Immanuel Quickley's floater. D Rose, obviously, he's known for his flashy dunks and all of that, but he has an elite floater game too. So I'm excited to see how this young man develops under the tutelage of one of the greatest point guards we've seen in the last 20 years.
You know me, Ovi, I'm always going to be big on young players learning from some of the important vets in this league. But some people have questions about the long-term ramifications. How do you feel like Derrick Rose's arrival will impact Immanuel Quickley? And do you see him fitting into that New York team?
I think it's the perfect fit. Obviously everyone knows Thibodeau and D Rose. They've got history together. But I think there's no one better for these young guys to learn from. To learn about what this coach wants and how to win under this coach than Derrick Rose. They were able to win and win a lot of games while those guys were together. So I think it's the perfect fit for a lot of different reasons.
Let's keep on the topic of additions in the NBA rosters because the Brooklyn Nets have actually signed free agent Noah Vonleh. Look, we remember that Vonleh was originally selected with the 9th overall pick back in the 2014 draft by Charlotte. Now, look, Ovi, I want to come to you straight away because we've spoken on this sort of panel on this show numerous times about what the Nets need to do to add to their roster. Are you seeing the impact in the pickup of Vonleh as a good addition to their squad?
I think Noah Vonleh is a solid pickup. Obviously you want to go after someone who's not really going to take up much cap space for obvious reasons. However, I think they got someone who's, he can become a presence on the inside. I remember I actually worked out with this guy when I was coming out of university, and he's a freak of nature, super athletic, can move, he's mobile. So I think he'll be a good addition for those guys,
BJ, when we talk about the losses that the Nets have sort of suffered this year, I think about the defensive concentration, the intensity against some of the lesser opponents. Knowing Noah's game and seeing Noah's game, he's very much a high-energy player. He's been that throughout his whole career. Do you feel like that addition is exactly why the Nets thought it was a good pickup for them?
Well, I think with the addition of Noah, certainly they're looking to acquire bigger bodies, bigger physical bodies, especially on their front line. So, I think that is first and foremost. But I think Ovi said it correctly. They're looking at the cap situation. They're looking at situations that's not going to behold them anything long-term, knowing that the trade deadline is right around the corner. So I expect this Brooklyn team to make some more moves, a major move here to add to that depth that they're going to need, especially on their front line, looking at guys who can potentially protect the rim and do some other things defensively. I like Noah. I like what he brings, but I'm not sure if that is the answer for them for where this team wants to go here in the future, which is obviously win the last game of the season and talk about an NBA championship.
Mo, it's important to talk about this offensive chemistry because look, they're rare. We've never seen anything like it, and they are on the verge of being historic if they continue with the same trajectory. But we've spoken about sort of their need to improve defensively and on the rebounding impact. Now, Noah Vonleh, that's what you would associate with his game immediately. Do you see the way this could be a great fit for both parties?
Well, definitely. If you look at what the Nets need, they need help on the boards, both offensive boards and defensive boards. They need help in terms of defensive coverages. And the main thing, when I watch this Nets team, a lot of time they look like they just don't have any energy on defense. There's a lot of standing around. There's a lot of not fighting through screens. There's a lot of miscommunication on switches. And like Ovi said, with a mobile guy like Noah Vonleh, if he can still move his feet laterally, he's going to be great to help them in those pick and roll coverages, as we've discussed, DeAndre Jordan's limitations. And then the energy that he brings on the offensive boards and the defensive boards is going to be absolutely crucial for this team, because if he can secure those rebounds and get them back into the hands of the stars of the team to go and get some easy points in transition, then maybe the rest of the team will also have more energy on the defensive end instead of having to grind out an offense or play through isolation styles of play.
I just like watching good guys find their way back into the league. Good guy, good setup. I remember meeting him back when he came over with the London Games. Just a good person more than anything else. So chance to contend on the championship team, as BJ alluded to. So wins all round. But talking of wins, we need to touch on the Sacramento Kings in Hot or Not, because they are picking up some big W's behind their potential all-star, De'Aaron Fox. So I gave you a slight little hint there as to the first topic for the Hot or Not this week. And we do have to discuss it because shout out to the De'Aaron Fox again. I mean, look, there's no confusion about this. These are facts here. Western Conference Player of the Week. And he's definitely made a jump. So Ovi, I remember watching him last weekend against the Clippers and seeing that jump that he had made, sort of leading in all scorers against the Clippers. So do you agree with the hot take for this week? The first one, De'Aaron Fox is an all-star in this league.
It's not a hot take, my guy. It's not icy cold. And for me, I feel like we're having this discussion about Conley again. It's a similar thing. All right, are we saying that he hasn't made big jumps and, he's not playing great at the moment? Yeah, he's doing a great job at the moment. Cool. But now, when you look at the guard pool and you look at who he's up against, has he done enough to surpass some of the other guys that he's competing with for those All-Star spots? So that's why for me, no, he's not. He's shooting the 3-pointer very well, and he's looking a lot more comfortable doing it. I think the change that we're seeing and the confidence that we're seeing in his game, it will. I think it could create sort of a trend that could lead to him becoming an All-Star in future years to come if he continues like this. But nah, I'm not sold as far as saying he's an All-Star right now. Nah, so it's cold, icy.
There's a lot of Kings fans right now that's screwing Ovi, and I can understand why, because the Kings haven't been to the playoffs in so long. I had to go back and actually do research as when the last time I saw them in the playoffs. So pushing that, understanding where De'Aaron Fox is elevating them to, and I know we had a debate last week, Mo. We were talking about Mike Conley, and I had to accept it because you said that he didn't bring the X factor, he didn't bring the excitement. But I'm telling you now, Fox is delivering elite numbers. He is exciting. He can do it all. So, Mo, are you agreeing with the statement? De'Aaron Fox is an all-star in this league.
Okay, JD, I'll give you the statement. De'Aaron Fox is playing like an all-star in this league. The question of whether or not he is an all-star in this league doesn't always come down to, how you're playing. As I said last week when we were talking about Mike Conley, as Obi alluded to, there's only really 6 guard spots in the Western Conference. And the Western Conference is packed with so much talent that it's really, really difficult to say who's going to make it and who's not. And for those all-star reserves, it really depends who the coaches have been impressed with. I have been impressed with De'Aaron Fox, and I feel like maybe if he was in a bigger market or on a team that's more well-known for their success, he might be getting a little more airtime, a little bit more shine, because I don't know that many people that really keep up to date with the game-to-game happenings of the Sacramento Kings, unfortunately. But his game, you can really tell he's been putting in work during the offseason or whatever you want to call the little break between the two seasons was, because his three-point shooting has stepped up massively. The biggest thing that stands out for me is his shooting off the pull-up and off the step-backs. Because as we've seen with guys like Luka Doncic, James Harden, that step-back has become a core principle of guard play in this league now. If you're going to be a good guard in this league, you've really got to have that step-back to be able to shoot from the perimeter when the defense is really putting a lot of pressure on you. And De'Aaron Fox has made a massive improvement on that. He's shooting over 60% on step-back threes, which is a huge increase. And in the last 8 games, he's been shooting 5 pull-up threes a game, and he's hitting almost 40% of them. And also add to that, it's not just from outside, he's getting it done on the inside too. He's up there with the best guards in the league in terms of finishing in the paint. So, he's playing at an all-star level. Look at the week that he's had. The Kings went 4-0. They beat the Celtics, they beat the Nuggets, the Clippers, and the Pelicans. He's averaging, I think, 31 points and almost 9 assists. Those are all-star numbers. But the question is, will the narrative be there for fans to vote for him? And if that doesn't happen, has he impressed the coaches to make one of the all-star reserve spots?
I like that. That sounded like there's some optimism in there. But one important thing that Mo actually did speak about, BJ, was that Luke Walton even alluded to this, the work that De'Aaron had put in the offseason to improve his game. And we can clearly see it's starting to pay some dividends. So fundamentally, I want some fresh blood in this All-Star game. I think we should start putting in some new names. And I know how crowded the Western Conference is. But BJ, what do you think? De'Aaron Fox, All-Star.
Well, JD, De'Aaron Fox deserves our attention. He deserves our attention now. This young man came into the league. He was a driver. He was a penetrator. And he's really made adjustments in his game. And one of the biggest adjustments I've seen with this young man is, I read a stat earlier today where it said De'Aaron Fox has only taken 5 or more threes 17 times in his entire career. 9 of those times has been this year. So he's made a change in his game. And he now is moving up the ladder where you're saying he's one of those elite players because he's in the Western Conference. This team, if the playoffs started today, I think they're currently 7th in the rankings in the Western Conference, and he's making a case of why and what he can do as a player who affects the bottom line. So when you boil everything down, Mo gave us the stats. We look at the roster. We look at winning. We say who's the best player on the team. De'Aaron Fox deserves our attention. Now, it's only been 20 or 25 games, but clearly I think this team has a bright future. De'Aaron Fox is playing at an all-star level. Is he at the elite level of Steph Curry and Damian Lillard and all those guys? Not yet, but he's making his case. So he has my attention. And most importantly, he is affecting the bottom line, which is winning and losing in this league. And no one, and I mean no one, if you look at him over the last week, you look at him player of the week, you know, they're 7-3 in the last 10 games. De'Aaron Fox and this Sacramento Kings now, you know what? They're not the old Kings that we're used to saying. This King now, you got to take them seriously.
Oh, that looked like it was a conclusive all round. I mean, there was a couple of debates between you guys. Ovi, you have nothing to respond because it looked like I got two people that were convinced that De'Aaron should be at least considered as an all-star this year.
I mean, I hear you talking about considerations, and yeah, like if that's what the discussion's about, okay, I can agree with that. Has he been playing very well as of late? Yes, he has. But you know, at the end of the day, I feel like there's people that are in front of him that have done a lot more on a more consistent basis, than he has. And all of those things also come into it when you're talking about all-star positions. So I hear what everyone's saying. He's playing well, you know, and hats off to him. However, all-star, we giving him an all-star. That's cold. That's cold, people. It's cold in here. Ain't no heat to that.
If it's not this year, it's next year, though. That's what I want.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's got to be next year.
If he can, but he's got to keep this play up. He's got to keep this play up. At the end of the day, we've seen guys go for tears for, you know, certain numbers of games. We saw Tatum go absolutely nuts. But then, last season. But after he had that hot spell, he was able to keep it up for quite a little while. And that's when I feel like people can say, okay, this is an all-star we're looking at. It's not just someone who just got hot for a period of the season. So there's still a lot of basketball left to play, but I wouldn't put him in an all-star game this year. No, sorry. It's a cold one, guys.
Like I said, I can't help you online against the Kings fans. The few that we do have will be coming. But shout out to De'Aaron Fox, because, you know, when you get that big contract extension in the offseason, you have to live up to the name and the money that's given to you. And he's definitely proven his worth at this moment in time. I think the interesting thing about this conversation is, even though we're sitting there debating as to whether or not De'Aaron Fox actually is an all-star, he might not even actually want to go to the all-star game because you've heard him very vocally call it a stupid weekend or a stupid occasion.
What I will say, though...
I mean, that's go on, Mo, go on.
What I will say is, though, you know, he's just won Western Conference Player of the Week. Can you even remember the last time a Sacramento Kings player won Western Conference Player of the Week? Or when was the last time we sat here and debated a Sacramento Kings player going to the all-star game? You know, that franchise and that fan base, they've been going through it for a hot minute. So, you know, I'm happy for those guys. And I'm also happy for Luke Walton because he was really on the hot seat and he seems to have figured it out of late. And obviously the other guys have stepped up in terms of Halliburton, and Harrison Barnes as well has been playing great basketball recently. So I'm happy for those guys. You know, it's nice to see them put a nice stretch of games together.
Talking of things that make me happy, I think this next take actually warms my heart a little bit because we say in this league all the time, it's all about fits. And when Andrew Wiggins came into this league, we saw all the tracks. Shout out to Drake, Draft Day, and the pressures that come with being selected first overall. It's a different dynamic when you're the first name picked. But BJ, I've looked at his growth this year in this Warriors system, and I'm loving it. The ball movement, the off-the-ball movement, the selflessness. I finally think we have found the perfect fit for Andrew Wiggins. What do you think about that hot take?
You know, Andrew Wiggins has been a mystery since he came into the league because he was drafted the number one player in the draft. And with that comes high expectations. And thus far, you know, Andrew Wiggins hasn't delivered on what we've come to expect from that. But when you look at his numbers and you peek behind the curtain, you go, here's a guy that's his career averages are right around 19, 20 points a game. He's gone there. He's gotten traded now to the Golden State Warriors, and he's averaging roughly around 17, 18 points a game. And he's fit in very nicely with this team. But what are the true expectations of this current roster as it is currently constructed and with Andrew Wiggins if they get healthy? Now, is Andrew Wiggins the piece, guys, because we got to ask the question, is he the piece that can fit in a championship level team? That is the question that we're all asking. Here with this team, if they were to slide into the 7th or 8th spot, barely make it to the playoffs, hey, everyone would say that's great. But is Andrew Wiggins the piece that we're come to expect with the Golden State Warriors? That is yet to be, that's unknown. I don't know that. I don't know how he's going to fit once Klay comes back in. I don't know how it's going to fit once, I'm expecting James Wiseman to take another step. I don't know how all of this is going to fit. But right now, it's kind of a gap year where we don't know what to expect. We're kind of like just hoping that they can slide into the playoffs. You're watching the brilliant play of Steph Curry. So right now, there are a lot of unanswered questions. I'm happy to see him playing well. I like Andrew Wiggins. But right now, guys, I think, to be determined, I think right now is how I want to leave it, because I don't know what the true expectations are going to be once all of those guys are healthy, hopefully, and on the court playing.
I'm not taking that as a no, but I'm not taking that as a yes. So we'll just say that's a warm take so far. Yeah. This is no slight on Minnesota at all, because clearly the two organizations were in different positions. But you're seeing right now in that Steve Kerr system, it's translating into wins. It's translating into significant points, and especially the effort on the defensive end, Mo. So are you buying into this hot take? Is Andrew Wiggins finally found the perfect fit for himself? And is he the right fit for Golden State as well?
JD, it's been snowing up and down the UK the last couple of days. I'm going to need some heat, so I'm going to give you this one as a hot take. I'm telling you right now, this is the lens that I'm looking at it through, though, because we didn't anticipate Klay Thompson missing this season, right? So when they went out and acquired Andrew Wiggins, I looked at it through the lens of, okay, we're bringing in Andrew Wiggins to play the Harrison Barnes role. Before Kevin Durant went over to Golden State in 2015, 2016, Harrison Barnes was that guy there, the kind of the 3-and-D guy that they had going on. And obviously Andrew Wiggins, his reputation is a bit tainted. He's not reputation as one of the best three-point shooters in the world. But, I love what he's brought to this team so far. And if we break it down and say, okay, cool, Steph's back to playing MVP level Steph. If you look at the numbers, he's playing it the same way he did in his MVP season. Draymond Green over the last 2 weeks has been playing absolutely insane basketball. The assist numbers are right there. James Wiseman, when he comes back from injury, he's looking real promising as, a big presence in the paint and also a versatile big man on offense. And then if you bring Klay Thompson back into the lineup, doing what Klay Thompson does, provided he can bounce back healthily, I can easily see Andrew Wiggins fitting in that Harrison Barnes role. When you look at that 2016 season, Harrison Barnes averaged 12 points a game on 46% from the field and 38% from downtown. This season, Andrew Wiggins is averaging 17 points a game, but on the same shooting percentages. So, obviously things will change when Klay Thompson comes back and the dynamic will shift. But if he can maintain that level of efficiency, he can play that exact Harrison Barnes role that the Warriors have proven, they can win a championship with a player of that caliber. So the main part of this, though, is on the defensive side of the ball. Wiggins right now, he's 11th in total blocks in the league, but he's highest out of every player who's not considered a traditional big man. I think back a couple of weeks to the game against the Clippers, in particular when he was matched up with Kawhi Leonard, he held Kawhi Leonard to 2 for 12 from the field. And that's Kawhi Leonard we're talking about. And he forced 5 turnovers on the claw. And we all know Kawhi is one of the most efficient players at his position in the league. So I love what Andrew Wiggins has been bringing for this team. If they can get Klay Thompson back healthy next year and James Wiseman can become the player that BJ believes he could become, then I think that the Warriors have a real shot of going back at it.
Ovi, I'm liking the strength of this argument right now. Look, I'm seeing the help that he's given sort of to the Warriors on the defensive side of the ball. We all know what he's going to do in terms of putting up numbers, in terms of points per game. But as Mo just said, it's the perimeter defense that has improved so much with Andrew Wiggins in this system. So are you going to agree this is the perfect fit for A-Wiggs?
I don't know if I can agree with it. At the end of the day, no, just hear me out. At the end of the day, we're predicating all of this out of how he's playing now, okay? And we all know when Klay Thompson comes back, there's obviously like a pecking order. Do you feel me? And I don't know if we're going to see that same type of consistency out of him when, okay, he might not be the go-to guy. He might not even be in the starting lineup, in my opinion. I think depending on what Oubre does and depending on if he can knock down and spread the floor consistently, I mean, I think he's an option they could go with. And, depending on how Andrew Wiggins handles all of that change, I still think, there's a lot of questions to be asked. And then on top of that, when he comes back, there's expectation. Now, this year, at the moment, I don't think Golden State are necessarily dealing with that expectation factor, which adds a whole nother element of pressure to how you're playing and how you perform. You know what I'm saying? And with, Klay Thompson coming back, and if Wiggins continues to have a good season, the expectation is going to be there. And now, okay, it's all well and good kind of going under the radar and performing, besides Steph Curry, where people are going to catch games, but the Warriors aren't the news around town anymore. It's a completely different story when you have to perform and the lights are shining bright on your squad every single night. So I don't know. Like I'm not sold, not yet. Not saying he's not playing very well. Not saying he hasn't been consistent this season. I'm just not sold.
So, saying that the Warriors aren't the destination for Andrew Wiggins to play in, which team in the league do you believe would be the ideal situation for Andrew Wiggins?
I'm just saying I don't think it's perfect. I'm just saying I don't think it's perfect. I'm not saying I have the answers.
So which situation would be better?
I couldn't tell you off the jump. You know what I'm saying? That's my point. I'm just saying I'm not sold that this is the perfect situation because this isn't the whole picture. We're not looking at the full picture right now. You feel me? So I think to judge whether it's the perfect, I think whether to judge whether it's the perfect situation until they're legitimately at a point where we can say this is a product that they would want to put forward as a championship level team. Okay, well you can't say if it's a perfect situation or not. Players can play well in situations where you're not expected to win, and that's all well and good. But if we're talking about the caliber of players that are normally playing on this Golden State side, we know championships is something that, we've come to expect from those guys. So now, how does his playing fit in that level of a team with that level of expectation? It's different. You feel me?
Okay, but do you feel that Andrew Wiggins this year or next year can be just as good, if not better, than Harrison Barnes was in 2016?
I don't know.
Because that's the situation
did a lot. I feel you. But now I feel like he has to battle it out with Oubre. Both of those guys can both, in my opinion, fill that role. You feel me? I think Oubre, you would want him to guard your bigger wings more times than not. Now, Andrew Wiggins done a great job against Kawhi in the regular season, but is that really the same situation in the playoffs? If you've got Kawhi and he gets him in the mid post on a block, is that really the matchup you're going to go with for a whole series? Like, I don't know. You feel me? I would put Oubre on him, But anyway, go on.
I know you got a root for your former Phoenix guy, but the reason why I feel like this is a perfect situation, I could hear that Suns talk coming through, but the reason why I feel like this is a perfect situation for Andrew Wiggins is, we talked about being the number one pick and all the pressures that come with it, but I feel like we've got to a point now where you have to accept a player for who they are. Nikola Jokic came into the league as a second-round pick, but we don't talk about him through the lens of being a second-round pick. We talk about him as a superstar player. Same way with Andrew Wiggins. He might have come into the league as a number one pick, but it's got to the point now where we have to accept him for who he is and talk about him as what he can be, and that is a very solid role player or a starting level player in this league. And so now he's come into this team where Stephen Curry is going to carry the offense, Klay Thompson can come in and contribute, Draymond Green can make plays for everyone. So he's not expected to be the guy that I think Minnesota were expecting him to be or hoping that he would be. Add to that, as we talked about in previous episodes, the situations to which a player is drafted can often make or break their career or how they're perceived by the media and the fans. And I do feel like Minnesota is a tough place to get drafted into. We've seen it, historically with the struggles that they've had, even trying to make the playoffs throughout the history of that franchise. So, I feel like this is a nice situation for Wiggins to be in because no one's expecting him to come out here and drop 20 plus points a night. No one's expecting him to be the first or the second option. They're expecting him to come out here, play hard defense, grab a few rebounds, and knock down wide open shots. And I feel like that's something that he's more than capable of doing.
Mo, as I was listening to, as you were saying, when you have the question was asked, how is he going to fit in? And if we're all looking at it with a healthy Klay Thompson, as I was listening, I was like, I don't know if he can fit in. And here's why. It's because Harrison Barnes has mastered the art of being a role player and playing the game without having plays or being featured in the offense. Because when you play with Steph Curry, when you play with Klay Thompson, James Wiseman is going to have to be featured in that offense. Suddenly now you got to have your role players playing their role. And I haven't seen Andrew Wiggins to date play as a role player in this league. I'm not expecting him to do any of the dirty work. It's not saying that he can't do it. I'm not expecting him. I don't think he has a game where he can just go out there and play without plays or without touches like a Harrison Barnes can. So I think when you look at it and you really break it down, is he capable of being the fourth guy on a team and doing all of the dirty work, a la a Draymond Green? That's what makes Draymond Green a fit for that team. That's what made Andre Iguodala. Those players didn't have to be featured. They just played, they contributed in the flow of the game because the offensive players were the ones who were getting all the touches. I don't know if Andrew Wiggins is that type of player. He is an offensive player that is capable of putting up numbers, but can he do it as the fourth option or fifth option? I'm not sure, because Harrison Barnes now knows how to, play his role. So the formula has always been in this league and always will be. Great players have to be great, and role players have to play their role great. That's okay that he may not be to the standard of being the number one pick. That's fine. But can he contribute without being featured in the offense or featured on the team as the 1, 2, or third option? I'm not sure if he has accepted that yet about his game.
Yeah, I feel what you're saying, but my take on this is we've never seen Andrew Wiggins on a team where the team is actually competing for something meaningful. We've seen him on bad teams. So, you look around the league right now and you can noticeably see the difference in players when they're on competing teams that are in contention for a title and when they're on teams that they don't think are seriously going to win. For example, look at the difference in James Harden's style of play since he joined the Brooklyn Nets. He's a playmaker now. He's leading everyone in assists since he joined the Brooklyn Nets. Back with the Houston Rockets, he needed to go ISO on almost every possession. So I feel like Andrew Wiggins, he's got that big contract already. He's not out here trying to impress anyone in the final year of his deal. And if he looks at himself in the mirror and he's got Draymond Green yelling in his ear in the locker room as well, saying, I can make this sacrifice for this year while I'm on this team to try and win this championship. Yeah, I'm not going to get the touches. Yeah, I'm not going to get all these plays drawn up for me. But I believe and I'm confident that he's capable of doing that.
I think the only thing that we can say with complete and utter confidence is Draymond Green is definitely in Andrew Wiggins' ear every night, 100% leading that team. But I just want to switch gears to our last hot take for this week. And as you know, we always take it to the fans and to the viewers. And before it comes up and before we reveal it, I just want to give a quick shout out to the team that's going to be featured in this hot take, which is the Dallas Mavericks, because they notched up their second straight win by defeating the Minnesota Timberwolves last night. Congratulations, and also congratulations to the fans that come back in attendance for the first time this season. But these fans are still not happy because Jordan has sent in to us, and shout out to my guy Jordan Cooper, and he still thinks that Dallas are still a major doubt for the playoffs this year. Do you buy it?
JD, what world are we living in right now where you're saying congratulations for beating the Minnesota Timberwolves? Is that what we've come to? Is that what the bar is now? Congratulations for beating the Timberwolves. Come on, JD. We gotta hold them to a higher standard than this. I'm really worried about that.
It should be like congratulations, Suns, for beating Boston. That's more like it, That's more like it.
PJ, I'll meet you at the front.
Hey, Mo, that makes more sense. Mo, that makes more sense,
it
right?
Does.
That's something to be proud about. Jeez.
It definitely, Ovi, you're completely right. Beating the Boston Celtics without Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart is still better than beating the Minnesota Timberwolves. But I digress from the point I was making about the Dallas Mavericks, who are now 4 games below 500. They've lost 7 of their last 9. They started off the season so well with a top 5 defense, but ever since the first couple of weeks of the season, they went from top 5 to bottom 5 in just the space of 3 weeks. They currently have the worst defensive rating, in the NBA. And man, I'm worried, especially when we talked about dynamic duos on this show, and Ovi came along talking about Porzingis and Luka being up there with the best and saying they're better than the guys in Boston or whatever. But now Porzingis is coming back from his injury and he still doesn't look right. And he's turned into a guy that other teams are targeting on offense. You watch the Mavericks play and teams are picking on Kristaps Porzingis because he can't move. Like, he just can't move his legs on defense. He can't stay in front of anyone. And it's turning into easy buckets on the other end. Now, of course, the Mavericks have struggled with players being out with the COVID-19 protocols, and almost half their team has missed about 2 weeks or so. So it's been hard to get the consistency in their rotations, you know, putting that starting unit together and that bench unit together, especially after the changes they made in the offseason, is tough. But every team in the league's had to deal with that. I feel like they're missing Seth Curry. I know Josh Richardson has added to them defensively, although the defensive numbers don't show it right now, but they are missing what Seth Curry added to that offense. And I feel like Luka Doncic, I know a lot of people are clowning Shaq for what he said last week about Luka Doncic needing help from a second star. I don't think necessarily they can go out and get a second star, but I do think they need a second ball handler who can take some of that pressure off Luka, who's shooting not very good percentages in terms of efficiency this season. I feel like they do need to get him some help in terms of that playmaking and, you know, and handling the ball, because right now it's a lot for him and it's a long season. And, you know, you see it with a lot of teams. You don't want your superstars to be burnt out by the time they get to the playoffs, if this Mavericks team can even get to the playoffs.
Oof. I feel for my boy Jordan right now, because I feel like that was a shot in the heart of all Mavericks fans. DJ, look, it's tough in the West. We know it's crowded.
Yes.
We saw that last season. We're seeing that even more this season. But this Mavs team was supposed to elevate. They were supposed to bring back their second best player and take themselves to another level. What's happening right now? And do you agree with Jordan's hot take that they won't make the playoffs?
I'm very concerned, and here's why. Rick Carlisle has always been a defensive coach. They are currently the worst defensive team right now in the league. I'm very, very concerned. Coming into this season, they had all these expectations. Luka Doncic, he was already anointed MVP. They're going to be in the playoffs. They got the Christmas game, the premier game against the LA Lakers. They were already anointed. But remember, guys, they haven't done anything. So now they come into this season with all these expectations. It's basically a new team. They lose key players, Seth Curry being one, and we can talk about on the offensive end. But defense is about effort and energy. Right now, they are not playing with the effort and energy necessary to be one of those elite teams. This team clearly has some gaps, some things they need to shore up on. And one is, how are they going to defend, especially with their bigs? They've even now resorted to taking Porzingis and starting him at the center position to try to find a way to be able to defend with their frontline players. So right now, I am really concerned. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. And that's saying a lot with a player like Luka Doncic, because this young man is putting up numbers. But right now, they literally can't defend. And I don't see it improving unless they do something drastically. Drastically meaning maybe they move Porzingis or they move another piece who, you know, we don't know as we're currently speaking. But right now, the way they're playing, no, guys, they're not playing well. Now I'm concerned because you're seeing it carry over week after week. You think they're going to, you know, shore up this week. Oh, they're going to play. No, it's not happening. They're just losing games because they can't defend right now.
Ovi, I wanted to give you the final take on this because I know Luke is your guy. I know you spoke about his brilliance way before the NBA eyes even saw him. The numbers will suggest Luke is having a great season, but the efficiency is another thing. And now you're coming into another question, leadership. Jordan has an interesting point here. And what do you think? Will the Dallas Mavericks make the playoffs this postseason?
I think it's interesting. Obviously, you know, they got off to a good start, and you know they seem to have slipped, and they seem to be on a slippery slope at the moment. I think everyone was expecting, you know, much more from them this year as a whole, but a lot of people are probably expecting a lot more from Porzingis. And like Mo actually said, you know, he's not moving well right now, and I think they're trying so hard to work him back into, you know, the flow of things with the team and you know, make sure they're finding him minutes out there. But it is difficult when teams are definitely attacking him. So until they're able to defend, and right now they're not able to defend with Porzingis, they're going to be in trouble. So yeah, man, it's definitely looking sticky for my guys. I still wouldn't. I don't know if I would write them off now. You know, because I think we have to see if some of the teams that are, I guess, overachieving in the West are going to, you know, finish out strong. That's another factor. But, yeah, it's definitely not looking great for them at the moment.
And, you know, it starts at the top. And I feel like this is a conversation that no one really wants to have. You know, Luka's the golden child of the league and everyone loves him and he's had heroic moments. But Leadership starts at the top. Defensive leadership starts at the top as well. You look at why LeBron James is so great and why he can lead his team to championships is because he commits on both sides of the floor. Kawhi Leonard, why is he great? Because he commits both sides of the floor. It's very rare that you can lead a team to a championship without playing very solid defense. And with Luka Doncic, because he's doing so much on offense, I'm not really seeing too much energy and effort being expended on defense. Like, I know some games he'll put up a triple-double and it will look great on the stat sheet and it will look great on the highlights. But when you're not closing out to shooters because you want to grab the rebound in case they miss, then that's a real issue. And is that a championship mentality, the championship culture that you're building? If your star player and the leader of your team is doing that, that's something they're going to have to look at as well and tell Luka as well. This is why I'm saying it's so important to get him another ball handler. So maybe he doesn't have to spend so much energy on the offense trying to carry every possession, because then he needs to commit on the defensive side of the ball as well.
But you know what's interesting? What's interesting about Luka? I feel like he's never been in a situation where he needs to be a leader and from a vocal point, or everyone's kind of looking up to him. And it's very weird, because he's been the best player on the team before where, he was able to look to someone else. So I don't know, maybe a piece that they need is not necessarily another superstar, but, someone, like you said, that can be a vocal leader, a vet, someone who's been around the league that's well respected, that might not carry that same sort of load playing on the court, but they can still orchestrate everything. Because I think this is a situation where Luka Doncic is the leader by default, because of how talented he is. But if you think about it, he's not really a leader. He's just an absolutely phenomenal talent. He's a bit different, I think, from some of the other superstars around the league.
More than anything else, though, guys, this will be a test of Luka and a test of his growth in terms of, as you all spoke about, his leadership. So I appreciate the fans for getting involved every time, each week. Look, keep getting them in every single week. We'll try and get through as many as we can. But talking of growth, especially in the game, that's exactly what we're going to talk about in our Off the Court feature this week. I know in this league, sometimes the glitz and the glamours can sometimes get people's attention in terms of who's the starters, who's the star man, but there's a specialized role that sometimes gets overlooked, and that's the sixth man of the year. And every team has one, every team has a go-to guy, and you've seen some of them that have grown, sort of the Lou Williams, the Montrezl Harrells. For some of the older guys, you remember the Al Harringtons, OJ Mayos, Lamar Odoms. Trust me, you can see I'm getting excited, because we understand in this game how specialized that position is. And more than anything else, it tests both your mental and your emotional skill set. One person who maybe should be getting a little bit more attention for his growth in that position is Jordan Clarkson, who's shining right now in Utah. And thinking about that contract that he signed with the Jazz in the off-season, it's looking right now like a great investment.
The Utah Jazz are coming off a pretty solid January, one which culminated with an 11-game win streak, only ended because Nikola Jokic decided to spoil the party. Even with the loss, the Jazz finished the month second in the West, having played a game less than the Clippers above them. Stars Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert delivered. Bojan Bogdanovic gave them back a dynamic they sorely missed without him in the bubble, and Mike Conley was huge, leading the NBA in total plus-minus for January. Meanwhile, Royce O'Neal shot above 47% from beyond the arc, and is shaping up for a career season. Excellent early signs from the starters then, but one of the team's key strengths so far has been the bench unit. For the month of January, the Jazz bench was 5th in points per game in the league and 1st in three-pointers made. Whilst Joe Ingles, Derek Favors and George Niang were all crucial, nearly half that output was down to the exploits of one man, Jordan Clarkson. JC has been a great bit of recent business for the Jazz. He arrived in Utah from the Cavs on Christmas Eve last season and hit the ground running. It was no coincidence that the Jazz immediately went unbeaten for 10 games after he joined, with Clarkson serving up 15 points per night off the bench for that stretch. He held up his offensive contribution for the remainder of the season. The bench points increased by 43%, which helped boost the Jazz from an offense ranked 22nd in the league to 3rd. In the end, he picked up a grand total of 0 votes for Sixth Man of the Year, despite amassing more points post-Christmas than any of the nominees not named Dennis Schroeder. Seems a bit rude. Of course, the Jazz saw his value and tied him down to a 4-year, $50 million contract, and this season he's been repaying that faith. As of the 31st of Jan, Clarkson was a career high in points per game and in scoring efficiency, whilst attempting more threes than ever before. He led all NBA bench players for scoring and threes made, and he only missed 1 free throw in that time. His offensive versatility makes him a more reliable option for this team when they need someone to put points on the board. With a near even split between assisted and unassisted field goals, he's got that speed and handles to generate his own shots off the dribble, whilst firing 40% off the catch and shoot, meaning he's a great final destination for some of that sublime Jazz ball movement. Overall, he's been a huge addition for Utah, turning the bench into an absolute weapon and providing an already pretty tough side with yet another option when they need buckets. A noteworthy contribution this season was his 31 points on the Mavs about a week ago. He came up huge and helped fill in for an injured Donovan Mitchell. So far, it screams 6th man of the year, which will be the very first one in franchise history should it go that way. But the next few weeks present the biggest test yet. Barring postponements, Utah's next run of games includes Boston, Milwaukee and Philadelphia, 2 against the Clippers and a visit from the Lakers shortly after. They've got to come out of this run with a positive record if the league is going to start taking them seriously. With the depth and defense of some of these contending sides, Jordan Clarkson will be absolutely crucial to that. If he manages to help his side power through these upcoming trials, then that 6th man of the year competition will look more and more like a one-horse race.
I just like in Yanni's feature that the Magic were featured in terms of being one of those difficult upcoming games. That's good eyesight right there, Yanni. I see that. But all jokes aside, Jordan Clarkson's transformation in terms of the Utah system has been incredible to watch. There's no two ways about it. We've seen the improvements, OV, in terms of him coming to the Jazz. And now what I'm seeing now with Quinn Snyder is that he's pretty much completed and understood his role. So what have you loved about his growth?
I think Jordan Clarkson, he's always been a great competitor. You know, everywhere he's gone, I think that's sort of how he created a name for himself. Early on in his career when he was with the Lakers, you know, with a sort of tenacity on defense. But now I think he's found a home with these guys. You know, he's found a role in which he's able to come off the bench, really sort of lead that second unit, be aggressive, you know, and make things happen for them on both sides of the floor. I think they can really depend on him, and I just think it's a really great fit for the both of them.
BJ, I remember back in your 92 winning season, you played a dynamic role off the bench, correct? And then you switched into sort of more of a starting position back in the 93 championship season. So just give us the insight. How different is it sort of mentally and emotionally when you have the different roles of a starter and then a bench position?
Yeah, coming off the bench is a totally different game than when you are a starter. When you are a starter, you have the responsibility of carrying out the game plan, knowing the matchups, managing time and score, knowing who has the hot hand, who doesn't, and most importantly, trying to figure out from night to night, game to game, series to series, you know, who's going to help you win that game. When you come off the bench, you know what? You just do what you do. And Jordan Clarkson has the right mentality as a bench player. He's not worried about time and score. He's not worried about who's hot. Jordan Clarkson is like, when I have the ball, I'm attacking and I'm going to get a bucket. And that is great to coach. And I would love, if I was a coach, I would love to coach a guy like him because he's going to answer the question every single night you put him in the game. Was he hot or not? Jordan Clarkson is never going to go out there and play and not shoot the ball and try to get a basket. He doesn't care what's going on. And I love that. And that is the right mentality when you have guys with that mentality. When you start talking about a Jamal Crawford. I played against a guy, the microwave, Benny Johnson up there in Detroit. When you have those type of guys who can score and have that mentality, it's always fun. So Jordan Clarkson has been a great addition for this team. They know what they're getting every single night. He knows his role, but more importantly, it's a very key role because you need that night in and night out for a guy to come out every night and try to go and infuse some type of energy, whether that's on the offensive end or defensive end of the floor.
Mo, do you feel like Jordan Clarkson right now is finding his sort of optimum value within this league because he's getting his UPS as being a sixth man sort of specialist? And how much is that going to impact his growth and journey throughout this league?
I think it's great the situation he's found himself in with the Utah Jazz, as both of these guys alluded to beforehand and everything they said, I completely agree with. What I think is great, for both Jordan Clarkson and the Jazz moving forward is the way that the league is going. If we just look back at last year, I believe Dennis Schroeder should have been the sixth man of the year. I know he was runner-up to Montrezl Harrell, but, the reason why Dennis Schroeder was so effective was that three-guard lineup that OKC used to run, with Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Dennis Schroeder as well when he was coming off the bench. And those lineups proved highly effective in today's pace and space game of the NBA. And with the Utah Jazz having one player on their roster who's earning a lot of money but doesn't really contribute much offensively outside of catching lobs and putback dunks, if you play him alongside some of your starters, you can play a lineup with Conde, Mitchell, and Bogdanovic, throw Clarkson into the mix. All of a sudden, you've got 4 guys there that are automatic buckets, and you don't really have to worry too much about the 5th guy on that team not contributing too much offensively. So I like the situation he's in. He can do it off the bench, and he's good enough to play those starter minutes as well if they need him to.
Just shout out to producer Ellis, because I see how these Utah features just seem to be creeping for more and more into these shows. Yes, I know there's a smile on his face somewhere, but in credit to them, they are top in the Western Conference at this moment in time. So look, they deserve the attention that they're getting. And talk about teams that's top in their conference. That's exactly what we're going to jump into now in our primetime preview. So let's start with your Saturday night action. There is no better place to start. And we were just talking about teams that are top in their conference. The Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid is leading his team at this moment in time, conditioning-wise, points, production, leadership, everything you're expecting from an elite big man he's given. And this weekend, he gets to test himself against an improving Phoenix Suns team. I'm telling you, Sky Sports Mix, 8 p.m. Saturday. There is no better place to be. And that's just a warm-up before we get you ready for the second course. NBA doubleheader on Saturday nights. And this is how you're going to finish it. Because I've watched this Golden State team this year, and they believe in one thing: elite offense. When you talk about offense in this league, look no further than Brooklyn, because these two are coming head to head. I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, this one won't be a low-scoring game. I know, Sky Sports Arena, 1:30 in the morning, right there for you Saturday night. What a way to finish off. Before we cross over, Sunday, we are back in the studio. Yes, our suits will be back on. We'll be sharp, we'll be ready. 6 p.m., Sky Sports Arena. And there's no better place to start than Boston entertaining us on our screens again this weekend when they're up against Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook's Washington Wizards. I know Mo will have his Sunday best ready to go. Before we wrap up the Sunday evening action, 12:30, also on Sky Sports on the morning, right there, and then leading on Monday morning. Actually, it's actually a later time. Imagine that in my ear. 3 a.m. they're turning around and telling me right now. Sky Sports Arena, the Lakers against the Denver Nuggets. A remix, I'm calling it, of the conference finals from last year. Just make sure you stay up and get yourselves ready for an early morning game on Sunday. Now, I want to break this down because there's a lot to unpack there. And Ovi, I have to come to you first because obviously you got the heavy hitter first. You're up against the Philadelphia 76ers. They're finding the rhythm at this moment in time in the Eastern Conference. But we watched your Phoenix Suns last weekend and they looked very good, my guy. So how are you expecting this one to play out?
I think this is a good point in the season for us to test ourselves against, I think what most of us would agree is one of the best teams in the NBA at the moment. They're definitely having their way with the Eastern Conference. But I think it'll be a good challenge for Ayton, for the young guys to come out there and, just compete against one of the best in the NBA. I think it'll be a good place or a good game for us to just see where we're at.
Mo, we're back in the studio. I know we've got some suits to brush off and some shirts to get ourselves ready for. Boston is setting us off nicely. How excited are you, first of all, to be back in the studio? And then on top of that,
been too long.
High-scoring game against Washington, bro. That's what we're expecting here. So, look, how you expect this one to play out, my guy?
It's been too long since I've been in the studio, man. I can't wait to get back in there and chop it out for you guys at home and provide that analysis that we bring every time. I'm expecting this to be an interesting game. We saw the Celtics in action last weekend against a powerful backcourt with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. And this weekend, Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, I'm expecting a big scoring performance from Bradley Beal. Him and Tatum, both from St. Louis, they have a close personal relationship, and they're going to be going at each other to see who can top up the scoreboard, because that's going to be a little bit of a personal rivalry there. So I'm expecting some serious points being put up on the board between these two guys.
And BJ, I'm going to give you an opportunity to round off our weekend action. 3 a.m. the Lakers play against the Denver Nuggets. I'm calling it the retake of last year's conference finals because both teams have grown since then in different ways. We've seen Jokic's emergence as an elite player in this league, and the Lakers somehow have got better and improved upon the championship unit that won the championship last year. So how exciting is that in terms of wrapping up our Sunday action?
Well, it's be a tremendous game. I'm really excited for that game and excited for that matchup. You know, right now the Lakers are playing terrific basketball, and you're right, JD. They look to be improved from a year ago. LeBron James continues to defy age. You know, Father Time has not caught up with him yet. You know, if Father Time is going to get a loss, right? He's undefeated. Well, he might have an L now with LeBron James. He continues to move on and play, and he looks as well as I've seen him. I mean, the mental, the physical, the part of the game. So I think this is an important game for the Denver Nuggets. And here's why, guys, real quickly. The Denver Nuggets are going to have to establish that they can beat some of these elite teams, because when they're playing the better teams in the Western Conference, they haven't been showing up as well. So I think this is going to be a big game for Denver. Denver is going to have to show that they can compete and give them a little confidence. But I think it's going to be a great game. We got stars, we got role players, and you know what? And our man Jokic, the most charming player in the NBA, I'll be glued to my television, guys, watching that one.
I just want to remind the fans as well, you get another opportunity to appreciate offensive talent. Do not forget the Saturday evening game as well between Golden State and Brooklyn. Trust me when I say this to you. You want entertainment, you want high scoring, offensive power in this league. Trust me, that's going to be great entertainment this weekend too. But, gentlemen, it's the end of the show. I know, it's wrapped up very quickly. It's been high pace, it's been high action. But before we go, can I give you a quick fun fact? And this one's actually going to make Mo smile. Yeah, Mo, are you ready? Are you ready, Mo? Are you seriously? Are you ready? Okay.
I'm always ready. I'm always ready.
2019, yeah, the first studio show was Toronto versus Orlando. Who won the championship that year?
Oh, I see where you're going with this, JD. I see where you're going.
2020, the first studio show was the Boston Celtics. The Lakers won the championship that year. The first studio show for 2020 is Boston versus Washington. All I'm saying, people, is we'll see you on Sunday.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.